Welcome back to English 4.0, the radio show. Let's go! Intermediate. Well, hello there, and welcome, intermediate students, to class 51. We got the first 50 classes out of the way. We're done with the first 50, now on to the second 50. Are you ready? Are you with me? Because I'm ready to go. But before we look at any new material, let's take a little look back at yesterday. Well, last class, I will say. And what we were talking about, is there less, well, in the question, is there less water in Almeria than in Asturias? Yes, there is less water in Almeria than in Asturias. Hay menos agua. There is less water. So for non-countable things or uncountables, we would use less. And I also said yesterday that there is less copper in Sweden than in Peru. Cobre, copper. Ask me if there's less snow. Now, I don't know how you are, if you know much about Canadian weather patterns. I expect maybe not everyone is very familiar with Canadian weather patterns, but I will say I'd like to tell you something about snow in Canada. So ask me if there is less snow in Toronto than in Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is my little province on the east coast, on the Atlantic coast of Canada. Ask me if there's less snow in Toronto than in Nova Scotia. Kyle, is there less snow in Toronto than in Nova Scotia? Yes, there is. There is less snow in Toronto than in Nova Scotia. There's more snow in Nova Scotia. Yeah. I say we because I'm from there, but I can still say we, I suppose. We get a lot of snow. Yeah, and on the east coast, the east coast of Canada gets a lot of snow. And the northeastern United States, called the New England states, New England, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, they get a lot of snow as well. Maine gets a lot of snow. A lot of people go snowmobiling, driving in snowmobiles, which is like a little personal vehicle to travel over the snow. It's a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to drive. So people in my province drive them in the winter, and in Maine as well, they drive them a lot. But yes, there is less snow in Toronto than in Nova Scotia. I also said in the last class that there is less gold in Belgium than in Indonesia, because there's a lot of gold in Indonesia, in Java and these places. There's a lot of gold and there's a lot of mining going on, and in Indonesia, a lot of gold companies there and mining companies that set up business there in Indonesia because they have a lot of gold. So yes, there's less gold in Belgium than in Indonesia. Now, is there less sand in your house than in the desert? Yes, there's less sand in my house than in the desert. Does your mother call you less often than you call her? Yes, my mother calls me less often than I call her. Is there less rice in Portugal than in Asia? Yes, of course, there's less rice, arroz. There's less rice in Portugal than in Asia. Is there less wine? Is there less wine in Belgium than there is in France? Yes, there's less wine in Belgium than there is in France. Okay, now I want to move on to a phrasal verb, to turn off, apagar, to turn off the lights. For example, to turn off the lights. Before I leave the studio, I will turn off the lights. Yesterday, I turned off the lights. Before I go to bed, I turn off the lights. I turn off my computer. In fact, there was a sign here in the office that I noticed today reminding everyone, please, before you leave the office, turn off the computers. Turn off the computers. Yes. So we have to do it. We have to turn off all the computers before we leave to save power. Yeah. Turn off the lights. I don't turn off my phone at night, though. Some people turn off their telephones at night, but I don't, because nobody calls me at night, late at night. And if they do, it's probably an emergency, so it would probably be best for me to keep it on so I could answer the call if there's an urgent call at night. Mm-hmm. And this is a separable, what we call a separable phrasal verb, meaning that we can separate the verb and the particle, or the verb and the preposition. And we typically do this when we introduce the pronoun. So I don't turn off my phone. I don't turn it off. Okay, it represents my phone. I don't turn it off at night. I don't turn it off before I go to bed. I turn off I turn off all the lights in my house. I turn them off. I turn them off before I go to bed. I turn off the television. I turn it off before I go to bed. I turn it off when I'm finished watching it. Yes. I always turn off the stove when I'm finished cooking. I turn it off when I'm finished cooking, right? So I never say, we don't say turn off it, nunca, because this is a separable phrasal verb, so we separate. Therefore, what I'm saying is the word order changes with this phrasal verb. This does not happen with all phrasal verbs. This happens with some phrasal verbs, and this is a separable phrasal verb. So we say turn it off. Turn it off, right? Turn off the lights. Turn off the lights. Turn them off now. Okay? And if I were you, I wouldn't worry about trying to memorize separable, non-separable in categories. It's best to just practice, and the structure will eventually come naturally. If you get too concerned with memorizing lists and structured rules and trying to apply the rules, then you'll have problems when we're talking about phrasal verbs and things like this, because they are essentially a collection of exceptions, and you have so many. You have exceptions, you have little tricks, and it gets very complicated if you try to remember why. Why does this happen? Why that? And so don't ask why. Just repeat, right? Did you turn off the lights last night? Yes, I turned off the lights last night. Did you turn them off? Yes, I turned them off. I turned them off. I turned it off. My phone, I turned it off. I don't turn it off when I go to bed, but I turn it off when I'm in the radio studio, because it's not very nice for me to have a phone ringing when I'm trying to do a radio show, is it? So I turn it off. All right? Very good. Let's move on, shall we? Are you ready? Okay, let's move on. Word of the day. Yeah, it's time for our word of the day. Our word of the day today is cisne, the bird. Very beautiful. I saw one of these in the Retiro Park the other day. Yes, I was in the Retiro Park. I was on my rollerblades. I was skating around the park, as I sometimes do, getting a little exercise. And I looked into the pond, and I saw a beautiful swan. S-W-A-N. Swan. Swan, swan, swan. I saw a swan swimming in the water. A beautiful swan. That's our word of the day. Swan. Did you see a swan yesterday? No, I didn't see a swan yesterday. Have you ever seen a swan? Yes, I've seen a swan. I've seen many swans, but I didn't see one yesterday. I saw one last week, but I didn't see one yesterday. A swan. Okay? Very good. Now we can talk about the verb to build. Construir, to build. And one thing that's important here is the pronunciation. Pronunciation. What? That's right, the pronunciation, especially in the past, because this is an irregular verb. Every day I build, B-U-I-L-D, build. Yesterday I built, built, B-U-I-L-T, built. Every day I build a sandcastle. Yesterday I built a sandcastle on the beach. Last year I built many sandcastles. So the verb to build. Did you build a sandcastle last year? Yes, I built a sandcastle last year. Did you build a building? Yes, I built a building. Did you build an igloo when you were young? Yes, I built an igloo when I was young. And I have built igloos. I was on Cloverdale's Corner a few weeks ago now, talking with Cloverdale and his students about this, and he asked me, he said, "Kyle, have you ever built an igloo? You're from Canada. Have you ever built an igloo?" And I said, "Yes, I have. I've built several igloos. When I was young, I built. I used to build igloos when I was a child. They were a lot of fun. Not igloos you would want to live in for an extended period of time, but to play in at least. They were fun to build. Every day I build. Yesterday I built. So, how about the first railway? Who built the first railway? There's a question for you. Who built the first railway? Well, according to my resources, the Greeks. The Greeks, they built a lot of things, didn't they? The Greeks built the world's first railway. Let's see, in the 6th century BC. Yes, they built the first railway, and they used it to carry marble, timber, and other goods between western Greece and the Aegean Sea. There you go. And so they were on to something. That was a great idea. So they built the first railway. Let's see here. Stonehenge. Stonehenge in Scotland. Very mysterious. A lot of people like myself ask, who the heck built Stonehenge? Who built it? And what's it for? And there are all these different theories. But according to my research, now I'm not an expert on Stonehenge, but according to my research here, probably the Boscombe Bowmen built Stonehenge probably about 4,300 years ago. So it's a pretty old structure, the Stonehenge, yeah. Now, who were the first ones to build crossbows? Crossbows. It's like a bow and arrow, but essentially in a gun. Okay? But, you pull a trigger. The Chinese crossbow. So the Chinese invented the crossbow. They were the first ones to build a crossbow. It was one of the first mass-produced weapons that would, like a missile weapon, we can call it, because it launches something, an arrow. So unlike a regular bow, a crossbow is mounted horizontally onto a stock and has a mechanical trigger, so the soldier can fire over and over again without getting tired, right? So some people believe that they built the first crossbow as early as 2000 BC. Yeah. There you go. Interesting. Let's see. Well, let's see here. I have a list of different things. Warships. So big boats, ships. The Greeks built the first warships. So ships for battle, so large, essentially boats. In this case, probably about 120 feet long, powered by rowers. So they had manual power. There were no engines back at this time. But about in the year 480 BC, the Greeks started building warships. Ships, yeah, and in fact, on the Greek 1-cent coin, the Greek 1-cent euro coin, you can see a picture of an old Greek warship. And I have an uncle an American uncle who worked on a ship, who served on a ship in the U.S. Navy, and he told me, I was talking with him last summer, and I said, where did you go on the boat? And he immediately said, no, ship. It's not a boat. And he said, you can put a boat on a ship, but you can't put a ship on a boat, he said. And so he was very proud of his ship. And as he should be, they're quite impressive, those massive military or navy ships. Quite impressive. And anyhow, so there we go. The verb to build. Every day I build. Yesterday I built. Okay, built. Yesterday I built an igloo, for example. All right, good job. Vocabulary of the day. All right, folks. Yes, it is time for our vocabulary of the day. Our 5 words of vocabulary for today. And the first word is responsable. Ooh, we're going to say dependable. And at home, you're saying, but Kyle, responsible. Well, yeah, okay, responsible. Responsable, responsible. All right, but also dependable. He's very dependable. We can depend on him because he will remember. We can depend on him because he will remember to do what we ask, right? And he will get it done. He will do it because he's dependable. We can depend on him, okay? Un recordatorio. Un recordatorio. A reminder. A reminder. I leave notes for myself to remind me to do things. They are reminders. They remind me to do things. Vida nocturna. Nightlife. Nightlife. How's the nightlife in Spain? Oh, the nightlife is very good. Ensanchar. Ensanchar. To widen. To widen. Yes, if something is too narrow, we can widen it. So how wide is it? How wide is it? It's very wide, but we can make it wider. We can widen it. And finally, tasa. Rate. Rate. R-A-T-E. Rate. Rate. All right, very good. I'm going to move on very quickly. We have to start our 4th translation list, but we are going to run out of time. So we're going to do 3. 3 quick sentences, and then we're going to break. We're going to stop for today. We'll go to the advanced class. But I will be back tomorrow, and we'll review, and we'll do the whole list tomorrow. So tune in again tomorrow. But number 1, let's go. Si oyes un ruido extraño, llámame. If you hear, en voz alta, if you hear a strange noise, call me. Number 2, ¿me puedes ayudar a llevar esto a la cocina? Can you help me take this to the kitchen? Excuse me, can you help me take this to the kitchen? Ah, thank you. Number 3, ¿a qué hora tienen que estar aquí? What time do they have to be here? What time do they have to be here? What time do they have to be here? Good. What time do I have to be done? Well, I have to be done right now because we're out of time. The technicians are looking at me and they're pointing at their wrist. Well, Nacho, he's pointing at his wrist and he's saying, Kyle, finish. We're out of time. It's done. So I'm finished. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.